We're nearing the end of this thing. We only have 2 more countries in Europe left to go. So the question is, have my wrapping skills improved at all? Welcome back to Cliffieland. This is week in country number 182 on our second attempt of cooking the food of every single country in the world. Tonight we're up to the nation of Ukraine. Ukraine, located in Eastern Europe, is the second largest country in Europe and is surrounded by 10 other countries. It has an incredibly complicated and long history. It has been traversed and conquered by just about every empire that you can name, and that's reflected in its food. It's a beautiful, beautiful nation, and we had to deal with this all last time around, so let's take a look and see how things went when we did things then. Well, 5 years ago on the Global Cooking Challenge, I got to cook and stream across 2 nights, and I was stumped to buy a number of different things. Because the food of Ukraine is very typical of that of Central Europe, and we've done all those other neighboring nations. So, they have pierogies, or things that are like pierogies, and we cooked pierogies back when we cooked Poland. They have delicious borscht dishes, and we did at least one borscht back when we cooked Belarus. Also, because of the influence of the Ottomans, there are a lot of dishes involving wrapped cabbage, which we're gonna see a little bit later, and that we did for a whole bunch of other countries as well. And my wrapping skills are pretty awful, and they have maybe improved a little bit. In any case, the dishes of Ukraine are a broad spectrum of things that will involve beef and chicken and pork and fish. There are going to be dishes involving potatoes and a number of greens. There are vegetables that are fresh as well as pickled. And one dish that I thought for sure I was gonna cook last time was chicken Kiev, because, you know, Kiev being the capital and all. And then, lo and behold, it turns out that chicken Kiev is a controversial dish in that its origins are not really from Ukraine. They may be Russian, they may have some French influence, and I didn't want to get into any of that, so we just punted and didn't do that at all. So what I did was I cooked on 2 nights, and on one of those nights, I made a meat-filled pancake, which is sort of like a crepe, and that came out okay. Not the best, and so we're not doing that this time. We served that with some beets in sour cream, and that we're doing this time, alongside what we did on the other night, which is a rolled stuffed cabbage, which we served in that case alongside some sourdough and some noodles. We're skipping the noodles this time, but it was really great, and let's see what go into tonight's 2 dishes. First, for our Ukrainian-style stuffed cabbage, we'll need 12 to 14 large Savoy cabbage leaves. That would be 1 large head of cabbage, 2 tablespoons of canola oil, 1 medium onion finely diced and divided, 1 large carrot peeled and finely grated, 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 14.5 ounce can of chopped tomatoes, 1 2/3 cups of water, 2 bay leaves, 1 1/4 teaspoons of kosher salt, plus more to taste, 8 ounces of ground beef, 8 ounces of ground pork, 1/3 of a cup of barberries, optional. You may substitute currants with some lemon juice if you don't have access to barberries. 1/4 cup of white long grain rice, which will be parboiled for 5 minutes. 1/4 cup of chopped dill, sour cream for serving, and sliced sourdough bread for serving. And then for our beets with cream, we'll need 1 cup of cooked or canned beets, which will be diced, half a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, 1 teaspoon of prepared mustard, and 4 tablespoons of sour cream. Well, that looks like it's gonna be fun. We need to get cooking. First, prepare an ice bath. Then bring a large pot of salted water to boil. Then, working in batches, blanch the cabbage leaves until bright green, 1.5 to 2 minutes per leaf. Shock them in an ice bath and transfer to paper towel-lined baking sheet to drain. Then, in a large saucepan, heat 2 tablespoons of oil. Add half of the onion, all of the carrots, and cook until soft, about 5 minutes. Add the tomato paste, add the sugar, and cook until slightly caramelized, about 1 to 2 minutes. Add the tomatoes, water, and the bay leaves, and cook until reduced by half, about 15 to 20 minutes. Remove from heat and season with salt to taste. Then, in a large bowl, combine the ingredients from the pot with the ground beef, ground pork, the barberries or currants if you're using them instead, the cooked rice, and the rest of the onion. season with salt, and gently toss by hand until combined. Then, working one cabbage leaf at a time, with the stem facing you, place 2 heaping tablespoons of the filling at the center of the leaf. Fold the sides in, then roll them up. Arrange the rolls seam side down into the pot to form one even layer. Although the recipe doesn't say it, you would at this point cover these with water. And if you want to keep the cabbage rolls from coming apart while they're cooking, you may place a small plate on top of them. Bring the pot to simmer over medium-high heat, reduce to medium-low, cover with the lid, slightly ajar, and simmer until the filling is cooked through, about 35 to 45 minutes. Remove from the pot and serve. Dress them with dill and plate alongside the bread. Trim and wash the beets. Place the beets in a saucepan and cover with water. Bring to a boil and reduce the heat and simmer until tender, about 45 minutes to an hour. Meanwhile, in a bowl, mix the salt, mustard, pepper, lemon juice, and sour cream. When the beets are cooked, set them aside, and when cool enough to touch, remove the peels and dice them. Mix the beets with the cream sauce and serve. How did that turn out? Well, it was very nice. It was a homey dish. It was not, particularly spectacular, and there were a number of different things we need to talk about, starting with those beets. Now, the beets were delicious. They had that nice creaminess, and the sour from the lemon gave it a nice combination that went really well with the beets. It was simple. It was delicious. I cannot believe how much I like beets now. I had never even eaten beets before I started this whole thing. So that's really great, and it's gonna get 4 out of 5 globes. Simple, easy, and delicious. But we need to talk about those cabbage rolls, and they came out okay. They were fine. That recipe was really messed up because it skipped some really key ingredients, or rather elements, because it didn't say that you're supposed to put water in the pot. Now, I know that because it's a basic thing, but you think that that would be in the recipe. It wasn't. So if you're following the recipe, you would have totally messed things up because you didn't know to put water in the pot. Also, it didn't tell you where to put the dill. It didn't mention the dill. I had the dill, I didn't put the dill in the recipe. It would have been so much tastier if I had put the dill in the recipe. Instead, I didn't know where it was supposed to go, and I just wound up throwing it in the beets, which was not correct. In any case, it tasted fine. The cabbages gave a nice bit of sweetness, as did the carrots. The meat had a nice, gave it its fullness, and it really needed to have a good deal more salt. So overall, that was a fine peasant dish, which was respectable, and I'm gonna give that one 3 out of 5 globes. I apologize to all the Ukrainians in the world. I'm sure I could have done it better, and I'm sure you do, and you can happily show me. Put links to other recipes that you think do it really better. That would be cool to see. In any case, that does it for this week here in Europe. We're gonna be back in 2 weeks, but next week we head to the Middle East to have the amazingly delicious food of the United Arab Emirates. See you then. These are not my original recipes. Links to the original recipes and their authors can be found in the About section. If you have any thoughtful feelings or helpful suggestions about what I'm doing, feel free to sound off in the comments here. If you like what you see, subscribe, hit that bell to be notified when these videos are posted, and of course you can always follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Thanks for coming by. See you next time. Happy eating.